Maybe Republicans should stop sending their backbenchers on CNN with Caitlin Collins, because this is the second time in as many weeks where a Republican congressman was told to explain Donald Trump's position and fell on his frickin' face. And this is over something absolutely detestable. Donald Trump's statements on Ukraine that I have here, I'll show for you in just a minute. But the reason why it's so hard to focus on anything is because of what Steve Bannon calls the flood the zone theory.
I strongly believe in the flood the zone theory, which has just overwhelmed the opposition.
And they are overwhelming the opposition, but the opposition, I'm hoping, is becoming stronger and fiercer and more able to handle everything that's coming at us, because now we are growing in our independent media and able to cover things in a way that legacy media simply cannot. But here is what that Republican congressman was trying to answer for, where Donald Trump called Zelensky a dictator and said that he never should have started the war.
And I think it's going very well. But today I heard, oh, well, we weren't invited. Well, you've been there for 3 years. You should have ended it 3 years. You should have never started it. You could have made a deal. I could have made a deal for Ukraine that would have given them almost all of the land, everything, almost all of the land, and no people would have been killed, and no city would have been demolished, and not one dome would have been knocked down. But they chose not to do it that way, and President
Ukraine chose nothing. This was forced upon them. This is, of course, you know this. I'm just going to say it out loud because I need to say it. I actually am like so upset about this, because this is a democracy. These are a group of innocent people that another country invaded. And I don't know, I'm crying. They were doing nothing wrong. The only person who is wrong here is the fucking American president, because Russia invaded another country unprovoked, and we did what we were always supposed to do. And what Europe did is defend a democracy from attacks from dictators. That used to be what we did. We were the good guys. We were Captain America. And now we have this president rapist who, of course, is blaming the victim of something they never started. And here's Elon Musk saying the president's instincts on Ukraine are absolutely right. Of course, he fucking said that. I have these Republicans in a second that are going to be basically saying Donald Trump shouldn't say that, but they all endorsed him and they all voted for him. Here's a Republican saying, I was obviously very wrong about Trump and Ukraine. I feel incredibly stupid for getting this wrong. There's no excuse for the things he said at this press conference. He was callous and superficial, honestly. I can't spin this into anything positive. This is a very conservative Twitter account, so he's even losing the Nazis on Twitter, so I guess that's something. Of course, the dictator of the United States is his White House is posting images like this because every attack is actually a self-confession. But let's just watch these cowardly Republicans run away from the camera as they're made to answer for another thing that Donald Trump is doing to destroy American ideals.
I would certainly never refer to President Zelensky as a dictator. It is quite clear who started the war. It was absolutely Russia at Putin's directive.
I do not agree that President Zelensky is to blame in any way.
Thank you, guys.
President Trump just weighed in that he...
By Russia.
I didn't hear that. I'll let other people use their words. It's not a word I would have used.
Did you call Ukrainian President Zelensky a dictator, as President Trump has?
Well, I like I said, the president speaks for himself. What I want to see.
No, the president speaks for the country, and he speaks for your party. And if you're not going to defend him, he speaks for you too, you fucking coward. Hundreds of thousands of Ukrainians have died in that war. Okay, and then here's this guy who also just doesn't have the capacity to lie like Trump. So here he is in a pretzel, unable to answer why Zelensky is a dictator, because he's not. He's going to talk about how they should be allowed to vote. Well, they're in the middle of a fucking war that they never started.
How do you hold an election in Ukraine right now?
Well, we had an election during
We're not
World War
having
II.
missiles falling on American cities right now, and half of our young men aren't on the front line.
It's just hypocritical to claim that you are a true free democracy when you're unwilling to hold elections. I think that's the only point that President Trump was making. But again, this is all sort of, I think, noise. Ultimately, a lot of it's just going to be depending on how this thing gets settled. President Trump, I trust him. He's a master negotiator, and he's going to, I think, he said in the clip, right, that he loves the Ukrainian people, and I think that's what he's doing this for.
You just talked.
Yeah. I just don't understand why Donald Trump is the only president in American history that no one takes seriously. He says the bad thing he wants to do. He says the thing that you're not supposed to say. Everyone thinks he's joking. He's being sarcastic. He doesn't mean it. And then he keeps pushing the boundaries. He does all of the things. He is on Russia's side on this. Saying that Ukraine started the war is a Russian talking point. Calling Zelensky a dictator is a Russian talking point. And let me remind you, the only country that hasn't had real elections in the past, 20 years is Russia, not Ukraine. Look at the elections. They've had 4 presidents. Russia has had 4 Putins. The I can't spin this is so effing telling. This gutted me. Imagine being a U.S. intelligence officer who spent the last several years working with Ukrainians on the ground as the Russians have murdered, raped, and pillaged Ukraine. And your president then says this nonsense. Total Kremlin talking points, disgraceful and embarrassing. And I would actually add disgusting. Absolutely disgusting. So, I don't know. I'm sorry. I'm actually having a hard time keeping this together. I don't know why this is making me so emotional. I just think the depravity of it all is overwhelming, because we're supposed to be the ones who stand up to people who talk how Trump is talking. We're not supposed to be the ones being led by someone like that. Ukraine did nothing wrong. Ukraine deserves to win this war. Ukraine shouldn't have to give up an inch of land, because imagine if someone walked into your house and took your living room and said, "This is my living room now." And then the mayor said, "Well, why did you let him in?" I don't know. Maybe that analogy is too small, but I feel like making things smaller sometimes makes the larger things feel more accessible. It just is insane to me. So, fuck Donald Trump. Fuck Putin. God bless Ukraine. And I hope that Europe comes to the rescue, because obviously we're not up to the task anymore.